And we have Chris not present. Kelly is present via Zoom. It looks like the rest of us are here present. Let's stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our district vision statement is, through intentionally designed systems, Haven School District is committed to creating a positive and inclusive culture, focusing on academics and personal success to ultimately be the district of choice for staff, students, and our communities. Moving on to the next one, approve agenda. We need to add one item to the agenda, and that is over here underneath 11, or we'll insert there consideration of superintendent contract. That'll be number 12. No, that'll be number 11.
Yeah, sorry, number 11.
Be number 11, and then bumping everything else down. Does anybody have anything else to add?
Oh, I need to add donations for bag shop.
If you want to just email me and I can just get them on the list and we can approve them next month.
That's fine.
That'd be the easiest way.
Okay.
So put them in the drive this week.
Do we have a motion or approval of that first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you just approved the agenda.
Okay. We have no recognitions, and then the consent agenda.
Oh, you got approved.
Oh, the agenda first, okay.
I move that we approve the agenda with the addition of item 11.
All in favor? Did she?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Not resume. Recognitions, there are none tonight. The consent agenda. Christie, financials?
Our ending cash for the month of February 2026 is $6,123,483.70. The checks that we had that were over $10,000 were check number 63128 to Benny Keys for $40,830.48. Check number 63146 to Security Bank of Kansas City for $10,200 for the bond payment interest. Check number 63184 to the City of Haven for $12,659.46 for utilities. Check number 63193 for Heartland Credit Union for $10,799.95 for our credit card payments. And check number 63212, State of Kansas Treasury Office for $79,762.50 for the bond payment.
Anybody have any questions for Christie? The principal and director's written reports are in the drive. Does anybody have any questions for them? Okay, the minutes from February 9th. Any corrections or additions that need to be made there? Okay. The resignations are listed in the drive, and they're also listed on the paper here. For everybody, I'll need to have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Moving on to the action discussion items. Presentation of the curriculum guide.
Yeah, so bring up the wonderful Ms. Kelly and Ms. Het. To kind of talk through this document, if you, in front of you, there is a folder that has the document as it was yesterday afternoon. But I think just to highlight that this will be a living document and it will get housed, probably on our website, eventually we can figure out that planning site for it. But great work by these two ladies, but I will turn it over to them, and then if there's any questions for them, I'll be able to answer them.
Perfect. So I just want to draw some attention to major updates to the course guide. Some of these are based off of feedback that I've received from staff, students, and then just my own, what can we do to make this a meaningful and usable document for our students, families, and teachers. So if you look on page 5, probably one of the biggest changes coming from KSCE is that for our students graduating year 2028 and beyond, they have added some additional graduation requirements. One of those being that every student now has 1 credit of an advanced STEM class. What that is, or what counts as that, is up to you guys as board control. So what is listed there is what staff and myself have collaborated on. Some of the decisions that went into this were if it's a 4th year of something that's not required. So for example, 4th year of math isn't required, we require 3 years, so a 4th would count that 4th year of science. And those are listed there. The rest of them, except for I guess math electives, also any math elective would count, but the rest of those all come from one of our pathways. So the deciding factor that I used was if it is at a technical level or higher, and we'll get into what that means, but essentially career and technical education classes have intro, technical, and application level. So by being at a technical level, it makes it a little bit more advanced. So we will track this as students enroll, we have to keep track of it, and just verify that students have enrolled in a STEM class for graduation. Another thing that I want to draw your attention to is on page 7. This edition came after our junior and senior parent-teacher conference night, where some people asked, what are the requirements if a student wants to go on and do college athletics? NAIA doesn't have necessarily any additional course requirements, but NCAA Division I and II have things that students would need to be mindful of, so I made sure to put that in there. For one, students to be aware of, coaches to be aware of as we're talking to students, and then ultimately our families. And then on page 9, this was a major addition to the course guide, is what all of the pathways are that we have, and then what are the courses that fall in those pathways. And you can see that they are listed, again, intro, technical, and application. This has worked really, really hard to get all of these pathways and classes built in, and we have teachers who are willing to step in and teach these things so that we can offer them. But now students, families, and teachers can hopefully have a better idea of what exactly is offered and when. And then the last thing that I wanted to draw your attention to is Coach Cooprider approached me about differentiating our strength and conditioning classes. So starting on page 44 through 45, you will see that there are 2 PE classes. One is lifetime rec, one's advanced physical education. So we were finding that students, they have to have a PE credit to graduate, and sometimes they can feel pretty uncomfortable or hesitant to be in those courses depending on their level, how often. I mean, if they have done summer weights, if they're not an athlete, there can be these barriers. So in an effort to remove those barriers, get kids what they need, we have a lifetime rec, which is going to be a little bit more lifetime. What can you do? Versus advanced physical education for, are you wanting to do maybe more sports, athletic type things? And then on the page 45, Coach Cooprider worked really hard to get me the descriptions to differentiate what's intro to strength and conditioning, and advanced strength and conditioning. So that's something I'm really excited to offer this year. As we do pre-enrollment, we'll get an idea of numbers for each of those, and then we can set how many sections we have of those. So those are probably the main ones. Try to make notes throughout so that students know what satisfies a PE credit, what falls in a pathway. If you're wanting to pursue designations like state scholar, which classes could you take? So hopefully less flipping back and forth and more something students can go through. So do you guys have any questions about it?
Can you walk the board through kind of how you select courses and probably what we're offering next year? That's part of it, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
There's a lot more there than I thought.
There is. We have, I listed all of our electives, because I'm making both a physical paper copy and and I think we were up at like 70 electives, like, once you add in every internship and all of those offerings. But yeah, there is a lot of choices for students to take. I looked at multiple different curriculum guides when making this, and it was impressive to see how much we offer compared to schools of similar size in our area.
Do want to just thank you guys for doing this and for doing your parent-teacher night presentations. It was really eye-opening just as a parent, what I've not seen, and just the information that you're getting out now to parents is just, it's really incredible, and I just really want to thank you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, next.
So this is, if you were at, oh, perfect, I was hoping you had one of these. I do. This is just like a little. If you were at our junior, senior parent night, a lot of this presentation will be pretty similar, but what do we mean when we say CTE, career and technical education? So what is it and what does it mean for our students? Oh. I'm looking
Slow down.
There we go.
There you go.
Go back. Nope, this one. There we go. Okay, so KSDE has a CTE framework that is based off of a national model. It moves from general industries that are very broad. Those are represented in what is that? Sunflower, abstract sunflower, and move to specific pathways where students can specialize in courses that we offer within the high school setting to ideally prepare them for a career within one of those industries. Each pathway has connected classes, as you saw, from intro classes, technical, then to advanced skills. Again, the depth of knowledge, what they are able to do and demonstrate grows with each course as they move through it. And ultimately, why is CTE even a focus, both within our district and then also in the state, is because we want students to become college and career ready, and blending of both those academic as well as technical and employability skills. I will get the buttons here in just a second. So here are the industries. Those are in the bold. There are 6 industries represented, and then the ones in next to it are the clusters. But ultimately, what we focus on is our pathways. So there are 6 industries, and we offer 15 pathways. Again, that is a really substantial number, especially for a district our size. So you can see the bullet points there of the different pathways that we offer. Sometimes this can be a little stressful for students, like which pathway do I have to be in, especially like for example in ag, there's 4. Which one should I be in? Good news is most of these have a very similar starting place. And so as they move through them, we can start to figure out, hey, maybe you're a little bit more aligned here. There's also no like law that once you say, I'm interested in this pathway, you're stuck in it. In fact, I would say students can have a couple pathways that they're pursuing as they're trying to figure out what might be a good fit for them. Just recently I had a student who said, I always thought I wanted to be a vet, and now I was thinking, or a vet tech, and maybe now I want to go a little bit different direction. So it's okay to move within the pathways.
And there's an application process for these each year. We have to apply with the state to be able to offer these pathways. And through that, we're required to offer a certain amount of credits. So that's part of the reason for some of the classes that are in that curriculum guide. We have to offer intro, technical, and application level courses. We have a lead teacher on each of these pathways, and there's a little bit of extra work for each of those teachers. They have to have an advisory council of people that work in these industries that they meet with a couple times a year, and a few other things that they keep track of and kind of track for us.
So, as you've seen in the curriculum guide, again, we want this to be an intentional course sequence. I pulled up the health science one just so that you could see it. Ultimately, our goal is that we get students into an internship or a more hands-on experience by senior year. And we want to incorporate this into the enrollment process. So I'll show you at the end what does that look like to bring attention to CTE. And it's not just something students happen to stumble upon, or like, for example, Miss Knapp, obviously that class is very aware of what the pathways are. But for a student who just maybe isn't involved in something like that, how do they know what does it mean to have CTE? What does it mean to have a pathway? What classes should I be taking? So we are going to do hopefully a little bit more intentional job of incorporating that as they do pre-enrollment. So the way CTE works is that you can be a participant, meaning you just take a semester of a class. And that can be a broad range of classes. If you want to become a concentrator, you have to have 2 or more credits in that. And then to be a completer, you're getting 3 or more credits. And again, that's not at like the intro level. You're getting down to that technical and application level. So these are our numbers from previous school years of who we've had, how many people we've had fall into those categories. And we'll continue to track that as the years go on. Now, one thing that's a big deal with CTE funding, and there can be some misconceptions about this, is how do we get funding for it? So we only get funding for classes that are technical and application level classes, and only for students enrolled in the fall semester. So if we have that's year long, they don't get to count again in the spring. Or if we have a CTE class that's one semester fall and then a different semester in the spring, we don't get to count that. So it's about $443 per student. Now, 350 students doesn't mean that we have 350 different students in CTE. What it means is anytime you take up a seat in a class, you count as a student, a CTE student. So if you are in 3 CTE classes, you represent 3 students. And that, if you figure out the math, equals about $155,000 in CTE funding that we get for having these courses. And then that money is used for salaries, purchasing of equipment, anything else? Most of it? Okay. Now, a couple of things that have changed. In the past, we have gotten what counts as a CTE class, like biology used to count as a CTE. We were able to nest some classes in that. It doesn't anymore. So when a student's in it, where we used to get funding, we now don't. Or where that counted as student participation, now doesn't. So classes like government, geometry, and algebra 2 are still considered, we nest a CTE course in it because the competencies align close enough to what those courses are teaching. The question is, will they continue? If the state says, nope, you can't do that, our funding would go down.
So this explains why our CTE funding has dropped so much in the last few years, because some of these that we required, like financial literacy has always been a graduation requirement for Haven, or not always, but as long as I've been here. But more recently has become a graduation requirement at the state level. So previously it was a CTE course. Now that it's a state requirement, it is no longer a CTE course. We used to count every single student for financial literacy, and that was, $443 per student. So some things like that have changed, and that has decreased our funding about in half. Over
Yeah, I
the
was gonna say, if
last-
you're trying to put a number to it, when I first got here, before they made those changes, the district usually was around $300,000 that they in CTE funding. But as you can see, what it's done now, because of just we really have the same participation. It's really cutting those classes out.
Now, one other program that we partner with, because there are pathways that we don't have. While we offer 15, and that's amazing, that isn't all of them. So we do have a partnership with the Career and Technical Academy that's at Hutch High. This is where students can go on campus in Hutch, but they earn dual credit through Hutch Community College. And you can see the programs they have listed there. We have students in the collision repair, the auto tech, the construction technology, the CNA, and the welding technology. The only one that we don't have anybody in machining and manufacturing, but we do have a student in Haven that's completing an internship in that pathway. So this is a really, really great way for students to get exposure to some pathways, get college credit, and because it is CTE, the state funds this. So it doesn't cost students anything to go there. And a lot of times even their supplies are covered.
How many do we have doing that now?
Let's see, I think we have about 6 to 8. 6 or 8, yeah. And I am this will be something that we really emphasize. I've had one student come talk to me this year about it. Typically our seniors do this because for our juniors, due to the requirements that they have to get with science, social studies, math, and English class, going to this takes about 3 hours of their day once we add in transportation time. So if a student wants to take strength and conditioning, or there's another class they want, sometimes the schedule can be a little bit prohibitive junior year. But I know we currently have one student who's in the welding technology program, and he highly, highly recommended to a sophomore, if you can do 2 years, do 2 years. Because he's like, I've got a folder stacked with all the certifications industry recognized certifications. He's been able to go participate in competitions, job interviews. He actually just recently signed on with Superior Boiler to complete an apprenticeship program. So he has a job, They are paying for any additional schooling that he wants. Now, he is going on into Missouri to finish schooling, but I would imagine the connection to Superior would be here and waiting for him if he wants it. So definitely, usually the barriers that I'm finding is that kids get a little nervous about, like, where do I park? Because Hutch High seems so big. So I took a group of those two in the masks and a third one. I took them and we toured it. They're open for tours anytime. It was something I really stressed to parents, like, go visit it. You can drop by anytime. And we will probably make one more trip right after spring break, just before the final deadline to apply March 31st. These programs always fill up because any school in our area is able to send students there.
Go tour probably as
Sure, yeah, if you guys wanted to come. I sometimes stop at Dunkin' Donuts on the way home, so feel free to join. Now, one of the
They like that.
narratives that I want to be really mindful that we don't, that you don't hear is that it is CTE or nothing. That is our only focus, and that classes that aren't CTE classes and aren't core classes don't matter, because that is not true. It's really amazing. It is an incredible opportunity, and I'm grateful the state has financially backed this. But we still have classes like instrumental music, vocal music, strength and conditioning, and not a single one of those is a CTE pathway. But I would guarantee you, when I do senior exit interviews, those would all be classes that students would say shaped and formed their high school experience. I also would never want teachers in those classes to think it don't matter as much, or going into this, if you want a future career in this, isn't important. Ultimately, the state has done a survey of what's within the state of Kansas, of what is high demand, high wage, and that's how they base what is considered a career technical education focus. And if you noticed on the Sunflower, there isn't a vocal music performing arts section. There is in the national model, but not within Kansas, because we don't have necessarily a high need for it. We want students to be well-rounded, and we know that classes that maybe aren't CTE add to a student's ability to communicate, collaborate, and just be an overall well person. So as we do enrollment, one of the things that I'm drawing students into is like, hey, let's talk about our core. Where's some CTE opportunities for you to get connected to, and then where are those classes that you just get to be a part of something that you just truly enjoy and enrich your education. And then this is my meme that it's a lot clearer on this screen. I don't want to stress kids out. That's another thing that I walked into, was that kids are like, oh my gosh, I have to know what I want to do, and I have to pick a pathway, and if I'm in this pathway. And once they speak it into existence, there's this stress of, if I change, or if this isn't what I really want to do, I don't even know if I want to say that, because it's more work to figure out what I want to do next. So my conversation I'm having with teachers, with students, is that CTE is meant to be intentional exploration, and you don't have to have absolute certainty. We are not even able to represent every job a student could get. We're just trying to help find career adjacent opportunities. So if you have something that you're interested in, like I want to be a pilot, we don't have a pathway for that. I want to be a detective. We don't have the public safety pathway, but we have a public service one. And let's see if we can get connected to that. So here's what it looks like for our, oh, that's a little bit small, students as they go. So in my enrollment conversations that I'm going into classes and having, they will do a CTE course enrollment activity where they list their careers. We already somewhat did this in an advisory activity, and I'm going back to it because some students typed IDK or professional athlete, and that's fine, but let's maybe get a little more specific. And then, okay, if that's a career of interest, how does that connect? What is the closest pathway that might be to? And then I will have the curriculum guide for them to look at. Let's look at the courses. So what CTE courses could you embed into it? So with that in mind, they will then go to their pre-enrollment form. Like I said, there will be a paper copy and a digital copy. And ideally, where they get to those classes, those lines at the bottom, one class in their entire 14 hours that they take between fall and spring semester will be a CTE class. For some kids it will be a lot more, but at least every year they're exploring one CTE opportunity. So, that's what I got.
We did not answer your question.
No.
Well, no, I was just got.
Oh, how do we
didn't play
determine
the video either,
classes
so-
that we offer?
Yeah.
In addition to the conversations that she's having with students, with teachers, Jessica Wilson did a survey this year, and we've done it before, for students and for staff, just to what are some other possibilities within the pathways that we currently have that we could offer in place of maybe some of the classes that we have chosen, to get some feedback from students and from teachers. And really, we didn't make a ton of changes from that, but always good to, get some feedback from.
The culinary arts one is a big
Yes.
one. Ms. Miller said, I have this amazing new renovated room, and when her initial schedule has like 4 out of her 6 hours that she teaches aren't necessarily in the kitchen. And so she said, I want to bring more to that. And Ms. Wilson said, hey, I can maybe take some of those classes. So as we look to next year, maybe moving, so nutrition and dietetics, it's nutrition and wellness now, but right now Ms. Miller teaches that as a back class. That will be moved to health next year, so one of our PE teachers can teach it to free up an hour to add some culinary arts and baking and pastries, more advanced baking and pastries class. And they made Texas Roadhouse rolls recently. And they, I can't say that. They were copycat Texas Roadhouse rolls, meaning no trademark, no infringement. And they want to, like, what does that look like to maybe sell freezer meals or to, again, get those kids experience to, like, really bring meaning to, it's not just that I know how to bake, but restaurant management becomes a part of it, so. And we have a video about what a day in the life of a CTE kid might look like.
So it was really important to us that, number one, we sat down and we presented this to you guys too, but it looks great on paper. There's a lot of information there, but what we really wanted to do is showcase what our students do. Actually, this actually falls under one of our pathways, which is media design and communications. So we had some of those students put together what they do, some of our students who are interns, and what their courses look like and how they get from taking a class in the classroom to applying that skill. So,
And I would be remiss to not point out, it is 3 minutes and 12 seconds long. There you go. Fun fact that you can remember forever.
I'm Jackson Wilder, and I've completed the Digital Media and Communications career pathway. My freshman year, I took computer apps and graphic design. In computer apps, I learned a wide variety of computer skills. And then in graphic design, we made like posters through Photoshop, posters, logos, all sorts of stuff like that. My sophomore and junior year, I took photo imaging, advanced graphic design, and introduction to digital media. In photo imaging and advanced graphic design, I just took my skills farther in photo editing and more for public use. And in the intro to digital media, I just took my graphic design skills from the past couple years and put it into videos. To finish this career pathway, I am currently taking digital media production and design. In this class, we use our advanced video editing skills to be represented at multiple competitions. And we also edit and produce some of the videos across our social media pages, including this one you're watching today.
Hi, I'm Bailey Minnis, and I'm a health science pathway completer. Freshman year, I took health and human growth and development. Health, it was a good introductory course to learn about the human body. And in human growth and development, I learned about how we develop and grow as humans. Sophomore year, I took sports med with Jan and LJ, and I learned all of the different bones and muscles in the human body. It was a very fun class, and it was probably my favorite out of my high school career. And then senior year, I took nutrition and wellness with Mrs. Miller. We learned about the different nutrients your body needs to survive and about overall human wellness. Currently, I am in an internship with Dr. Chad Lauenbach in Hutchinson, Kansas. He is a dentist. At this office, I follow around the dental hygienists and the dental assistants, and I watch procedures, sanitize stations, and help clean instruments.
My name is Chris Barrientos, and I completed the agricultural and mechanical system pathway. My freshman year, I did Intro to Ag, and it was really fun. Got to learn a lot of different animal judging. Sophomore year, I did Welding 1 and learned just the basics of welding. My junior and senior year, I did Welding 2 and Ag Fabrication, where we take the skills that we learned from Welding 1 and apply them to projects that we can do throughout those classes. My senior year, I'm doing an internship in South Hutch, Central Welding and Machining, where I kind of shadow a machinist and a few welders there. They do quite a bit of projects that they get called in for, and I mean, it's really good to take these skills I learned from welding throughout my sophomore, junior, and senior year and apply them there with my internship and kind of get a hands-on experience with them.
Any questions for?
Good job
Thank you.
explaining that.
Any questions?
Are we leaving any money on the table with freshmen that, it looks like on some of these, like business essentials is offered in middle school. So there's several of those, but do we have opportunity to offer more of the intro classes in middle school so that we get paid for them once they're freshmen?
So I think quite a few of them are intro to healthcare is offered freshman year, and the reason we don't offer that in middle school is because it counts as a high school graduation credit. I do know that is a conversation that quite a few schools are having, pushing a lot of these intro level classes down to the middle school level. I think we've got,
Some of the pathways have their own intro level course that is middle school level too, like the FACS pathway and the ag pathway. They have an intro level middle school and an intro level high school course. But yes, business, that's specifically why we put it in 8th grade, but we put it in the spring.
and that is a conversation that I've had with Ms. Knapp of like, is there any way that a student, it's a year-long class in high school for intro to ag, it's a semester-long class in middle school, and I've said, any chance if a student takes that as an 8th grader, they wouldn't need to retake it and we could get them straight into something? And she said, ooh, because of the year versus semester, but she promised over the next year that was one of the things she was gonna work on. We'll revisit that next fall, winter, I guess more winter and headed into spring enrollment to see if she can, what that would look like to revamp that class.
Does that answer? Kelly?
Yep,
Any questions?
Any questions?
no, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Trek Corps report.
Yeah, so I would like to welcome Integrity Sports up. Going to kind of talk through the core sample report, talk through options. This is not by any means a decision making time, because I think one, taking this to the capital outlay committee, but then also I don't know if with a project like this, is this just a true board decision, or is it something that needs to go in front of that committee? But they're here going to be able to talk through what they found, certainly better than Chris and I could because they're professionals. In your folder there is the summary, and then we'll shoot some images up here on the board.
Yeah, so,
Oh, you did? Okay.
I printed a couple of these up until we ran out of magnet, or how do you pronounce it? Don't ask me how to pronounce it, but I'm not, that's why they're professional. Right. Thank you, just a quick introduction, my name is Vance Repka. I'm a landscape architect, been designing sports facilities for about 42 years. I'm trying to give myself 10 years back, but it's not gonna work. And so we came in and had some, and kind of looked at your track, talked to Chris and Craig quite a bit, and so walked around and decided what we typically do, because none of us can see or understand what happens below the surface. We hired a geotechnical engineer to come out, drill the cores. This diagram just shows where those cores were taken. There were 6, and it's sort of a cheat sheet, and then it shows the thickness at the top of each of those squares of the asphalt, and then the thickness of the gravel that's underneath, so the A and the G. And then when I say fat or lean, that refers to the soil that's underneath. And so, if you want to hit the next slide.
You want to explain what fat and lean is real quick?
Well, I think I will here in a second.
Okay.
So these are the pictures of the cores, and I will say 6 inches is a good depth. A lot of times I'm doing the 2 tracks, redoing the 2 tracks in Lawrence, and we found anywhere from 3 to 9 inches. And so when you're at 3 inches, it's almost no good. you have to tear it all out. But in this case, with that, and you see where the two pieces have separated, typically there's a base course of asphalt and a finish course. And so that's what that break is right there, and that's normal. That's at about it's pretty close to being a 2-inch depth. And so one of the recommendations would be to mill that top layer off and replace it with new asphalt across the top. But I'll go through that in a second. So it turned out better than we thought. We always expect the worst. And so this was good. If you go to the next slide. So there's 6 different boring logs in there, and I printed out the 2 that show, one is a lean clay and one is fat clay. And so lean clay absorbs a lot more water. There's a lot more shrink swell. If it gets wet, it expands. If it gets dry, it shrinks. And that's how you get those cracks. Everything moves. You had a couple of borings that were in lean clay, but most of the area was in fat clay. Okay, and that's just not unusual for the Midwest. Quite honestly, Kansas, Missouri, it's a lot of fat clays around here. So if you want to dive into the details, when you see that liquid limit, I highlighted the 2 things. The main one is that liquid limit at the left. Yeah, so if you're at 50, we want to be below 45, and if you were going to put in a lean material, it would be sort of a gravel and fine type mix that would have that liquid limit will always be below 40. And so even where we are lean clay, we're kind of at that, we're at the upper end of that. And so we just have to be careful with it. I don't mean to bore you with all these details, but that's kind of where we're coming up with our recommendations and why. I'm going to go to the next one. These are just pictures, and you'll see those in the full report if you have the full report of where we've got the cracks going across. And they're not major. We've seen a lot worse than this, and I probably shouldn't say this, but Chris has done a great job fixing those. He really has. Some of that repair is very professional, so good job on that. So the renovation summary is we've got 6.5 to 7 inches, top 2 inches on top of a 4-inch base layer, and then there's 12 inches of gravel below it. So that's a really good sign. The geotech engineers, and you'll read through that report, they recommend full replacement. Now I've done a modification of my own. So 1A is to take all the asphalt and all the gravel out, bring in new good gravel, new asphalt, and new track material. And as you can imagine, that is the most expensive thing you can do.
Man, just the plot. These are found in your tax summary.
Yeah. 1B is because you have gravel underneath there, which is a desirable material to have. We have at times just stabilize that, meaning you take Portland cement and you mix it in with a big tiller. It's called an incorporator, but it's basically a big tiller, and that really firms that up. So my 1B is a slight modification of full replacement. You would scrape off all the rubber, take off all the asphalt, and then just incorporate the cement into your gravel. Next option, which would be, and I'll give away the final punchline, but this is the one we think is probably the most appropriate for you, and that would be just mill off those 2 inches, those top 2 inches, like we had talked about. Get in there and fix the cracks that you have. When you mill off your asphalt, you will have it's a big heavy machine that does that, and then we will know if you've got some really bad spots in those fat clay areas. So we would put in a provision to fix those if we find them. And any of the smaller cracks that we have, we pour a sealant in there. That's a polyurethane sealant, which is what the track material is made of, and seal that off so water does not get down into your subgrade. Okay, so that's number 2, and then number 3, which you'll see in the if you read that full report, was just to put 3 inches of asphalt across the top. Scrape the rubber off, put 3 inches of asphalt across the top. While that probably works from a track construction standpoint, we then have to worry about what do we have ADA access on the outside, how far do we have to feather to make that work, and what do we do on the inside? We now have a 3-inch lip above the top of the curb. So I don't like that, that option at all. So I would really tell you not to worry about that too much. And then number 4 would be pull off the rubber, try to fix the cracks, and put new rubber down. Okay, these are less expensive as we go through, as you can imagine. And that, what you'll typically find there is you'll find those cracks come back within a couple of years. And so what you have now, you're not really going to solve. You're kind of putting a bit of a Band-Aid over it. And so we don't typically recommend that. And then what I didn't put on here was number 5, and I just walking around, you have fairly decent track material on a lot of your track. And so if you're looking for a 3, 4, 5 year gap measure, you can put a structural spray over the top. Do you have those samples? And so the structural spray, you have a base mat out there that's just black rubber. And then, and so what you see on top of these is called the structural spray. And that's what you literally run. So you could spray yours. Now there are some spots where we're down to asphalt. Those patches would need to be taken out. We would have to analyze that a little bit closer, go out there and figure out how thick everything is. So you would take off probably some of your, it's really the east straightaway, I think it's the worst and the thinnest where it's chipping up. So we take some of that off and redo it with the full base mat. So that's a base mat structural spray. The base mat is that black rubber that's underneath. Okay, so if you do that, you then, you know, we sort of have some of our costs as we move down this line. And you get to a much more affordable position. I don't really know where you are. I know nobody wants to spend money on this, typically. And so we can come up with the numbers. We've got some numbers that we think could work, or budget numbers, but we don't know the time frame of when you're going to need to do this. So that depends on your capital outlay and what your funding mechanisms are. So I may have gotten ahead of myself. Yeah, so we said we'd do option number 2, and I wouldn't, at this point, unless you're going to replace the whole thing. I almost think you may not have to replace the whole thing, because you're really in pretty good shape. And that 12 inches of rock underneath your 6 to 7 inches of asphalt, it is really pretty good. Once we mill off that top 2 inches, we'll see if we blow out a whole bunch of areas. I really kind of doubt it. So that's just our opinion, but I think you're pretty safe there. Any questions? Am I too detailed or not detailed enough? You want to know?
I'm just thinking that we're gonna come up with $1 million.
I would like more on that option 5, just to throw it out there, just to see. I know it's not the optimal, we've had it for a while now, but
Right.
if you can come, I don't know, so.
Yeah, so I mean, your first option is $1 million, you know, whatever it is, 1.1, 1.2. And actually, I would say that was 1B. I wouldn't do the whole tear out. Option 2 was that mill and overlay is going to be in that $700,000-800,000 range. Option 4, we were figuring that's going to be close to $500,000, and then you're probably looking at the $200,000-250,000 range to structurally spray everything, repair potentially just that east straightaway, and then restripe the whole thing. So you'd get all new restriping. Now there are other options that bring your costs up or down. Well, they would bring your costs up. So we figured kind of the basics. You know, you've seen some of the school tracks where they have the colored exchange zones and some of those things that are kind of neat. But that's like a $35,000 premium just for those colors. So, sorry, I shouldn't have brought that up.
We're not doing that.
It looks neat if you're up in a, you know, for your junk photos and stuff, but it's a lot of money. I'm surprised at how much that costs.
What kind of life expectancy do you have on option 5?
On option 5, it's probably a 3 to 4 year would be my guess. And anytime you do, when you go brand new with this, that structural spray should be redone every 5 years, 5 to 6 years. And it's from, some of it's from use and some of it's just from UV degradation. So just the sun rays will degrade that polyurethane, the chemicals that are in there. So, yeah, I would think that you would want to have it replaced fully, all of the rubber, in 3 to 5 years.
Great. And Daniel, or I don't know if you can hear me, this might be a question, but not necessarily for him, but what was the last thing that was done to the track? And when was that? Did we have it refinished or topped or?
Structural spray,
Yeah, it was structural sprayed. How long ago was that?
about 5 years ago.
5 years ago, so,
Okay.
yeah, so we kind of done this.
We started talking about this before Kelly was on the board.
Yeah.
And kind of the patched and
Yeah,
patched.
so when you walk it now, you see the rubber is crumbling and it's kind of falling off, and if you get a blower out there, you know that
We'll be
it'll.
blowing our track away.
Well, be careful with that, but when it's loose like that, then you know you need that structural spray. And that really encapsulates that top layer and keeps it from drifting off. And so that's your, I mean, they call it structural spray because that's really what you're running on. And that's what the cleats go in.
Is it, did I hear you say, I mean, structural spray is an option and probably one we'll talk seriously about, I assume, but that's not gonna fix, the cracks are gonna keep coming.
No, yes, they'll keep coming
I
back.
mean, whether
Yeah.
it's,
That's what I mean. So after, you know, again, after a year or two, you'll start to see those cracks again. It isn't, but it will, but the rubber and the structural spray will last your 3 to 5 years. And so in that sense, in 5 years, you'll be right where we are today. Okay, you will have spent whatever it is, $250,000. And then in 5 years, we'll be right where we are now. Probably not recommending you do that again because you will have worn enough of that rubber out that it will be have to time, so.
It does give us a chance to finish the current bond though, before we try to get another one.
So a structural spray, how much does it add material to the top?
It's just this thin coating. I mean, it's almost like thick paint. It's
The
like
thin or what you're seeing, the whole thing?
the thin, just the gray on top
What is the mill?
or the
Oh, that.
red. Yeah, it's like 2 to 3 mils, all it is. Millimeter, is that what you meant?
Yeah, 2,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it's only a couple millimeters thick.
surprised you wouldn't have it like 10 or 20 mils.
Well, that's what you're getting with the whole base mat. That's when
That's
you
right.
start to get that's when you start to get really expensive.
That's about a ½ inch, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so 13 is really what your total thickness would be when you're finished with a new track, which is about ½ inch. But it's usually a 10 or 11 mil base mat, and then a 2 to 3 mil structural spray. So that's what I mean, that's all you're getting. You're not getting much depth out of it. So if you've cupped or anything like that, you really can't just fill that with structural spray. And the properties of this are different than your base mat. So that base mat is resilient, kind of spongy, you know, gives you that, the energy feedback, or the, whatever that term's called. But the structural spray doesn't do that. It just kind of, it's your wearing course, is it.
We would also patch those certain areas that are severely cracked. You can't just spray into that and then expect it to much, so it's not gonna be a generic.
Yeah, so we would try to get down in those cracks and keep water intrusion from getting in. But we're doing it from the top of asphalt, or the top of the rubber. And so you're just not gonna be as good about getting in there as you can if you strip all the rubber off.
Any other questions? So I think for the board, certainly not time to make a decision, because this would be coming up, this summer and with capital outlay budget, but I need some directions in terms of, is this, when you're thinking something this big, is it something we take to that capital outlay committee, or is that for just the overall smaller projects kind of things, or do you want their recommendation? If they come back and say replace the whole thing, are we gonna take that recommendation too, is my concern. Not that this shouldn't be talked about and part of the budget, because remember, 1 mil for us brings in about $105,000. Capital outlay or LOB, whichever one you wanna take that from, with their assessed valuation, in terms of math. But it's really nothing that needs to be decided tonight. I'm not recommending that by any means.
Back 8-9 years ago, we started setting money aside for trash. Is that still accounted for, or is it not?
Yes, it wasn't last year because we weren't able to
Right.
list anyone, but before that, yes. We had traditionally sent about 40,000 back a year.
So how much did we have accumulated?
There, it's not, I can tell you what would be left in capital outlay at the end of the year, but there's nothing that specifically says. I think just the district just made an effort knowing we would be here. I also say that was probably decided when we were collecting main mills too.
Do you remember that, Chris?
Yeah, I know that there's money that they said was set aside, but that money's not like just, I think what Craig's trying to say is that money's not just sitting somewhere for the track, it's in our capital outlay money. So it's not like they're.
Yeah, when the 9 times, there should have been that much, not saying that it's been on a bus, just because we're not bringing in as much revenue.
I'm just trying to recall back when I first got on the board.
Yeah, no, it was when I hired to, some documents, it's on there and we kind of account for it, but also, like I said, the revenue's different.
We've been kicking this thing down the road for 9 years now. I don't know how much further we can kick it down.
Sounds to me like 3 to 5.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't want to kick it down the road at all, but I also, when we look at air conditioners and the other facilities problems that we haven't addressed, it's also hard to prioritize a track over 22-year-old air conditioners. So, it does become kind of a capital question, but, just back of the napkin, where's it gonna fit in? I don't think it fits in without sliding it into another maintenance type bond at some point. So, I think we're probably gonna have to try to limp it along a little bit further, because I just think we don't have the money to.
Without lining and getting true numbers, you wanna keep mills down, you're looking at not getting a bus next year, something like that.
I think we're already looking at not getting a
Probably possibly doing that as well, but yeah, something like that in terms of big purchases that we've always made out of capital outlay. If you're looking at that way. But those discussions, I just need some guidance, in terms of if the board is serious, and it sounds like the 3 to 4 year plan, tying that into the capital outlay budget when it's presented in July. Unless I'm hearing something different.
I think we have a choice.
I don't either.
The choice is, if the community wants a track, that's
Right.
Well,
But then we're gonna have to do a bond.
I ran on an asphalt track in high school, so
That's all right, we're still here. We're still here.
You can let it go to that. If you do nothing, that's probably what you'll have.
Yeah, we'll let that swing, yeah.
So,
No, you'll have a dirt track.
It was a fast track.
It's because it was 300 yards.
yeah, shin splints, like.
Oh yeah, everybody had shin splints.
Rub on dirt.
Not to go back to the old way.
Yeah.
But it was a lot cheaper.
Helping them up.
Yeah. Okay, anything else?
You know, when we go into that planning session into that, this conversation will come up, but we wanted to at least let you know what we're looking at. We knew we were gonna be here. You said, rightfully so, we haven't been able to kick the can down the road. Chris has done a good job, but we're kinda at that point where we might be able to live long for just a little bit longer, to get it to a possible one. Thank you guys.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, chickens. Which came first, the egg or the chicken?
We were gonna have fried chicken for dinner.
The one that works, I think it's down,
Okay.
but.
Okay, well, we'll get started. I brought with me Cadence Carl, and she is one of our officers in FFA. She's a reporter. She just ran for district office. And one of the components of being in FFA is having an SAE. And an SAE is a supervised agricultural experience. And sometimes when you live in a town like Haven, and you don't come from a family farm, it can be challenging to find an SAE that you can actually get credit for, and that helps you work towards advancing your degrees. When I was growing up, I had a really hard time finding one. I ended up working in a plant nursery, and that helped me, and I had someone who was willing to mentor me through that project. And so Cadence was having trouble finding one, and we visited, and she knows my heart. So we came up with a project, which includes chickens, and we're so thankful that the city has approved the opportunity for us to get chickens. I know you guys know a couple years ago, I came with the idea of bees, and they gave us an educational exemption to get bees, and the bees are flourishing, and it's been an awesome experience. So when we think about how can we continue to grow and do things and bring in our agricultural background that we have in Haven, chickens seemed like the right thing to do. So, we'll get started. Okay,
It's just a little slow.
a little slow. Oh, hold on.
I would get 100%.
Which button did you just hit? There you go. Just give it a second. There you go.
It's the down button. All right, do you want to start? How it came about?
So we are going to have a grade school teacher. She does stuff with chickens. She does like a little hatchery thing with them in her classroom and teaches her like students about them. So she will be helping us with like the eggs. She's gonna teach her kids about them, and then we are gonna take care of the rest.
We're gonna adopt
Yeah.
them. So Miss Christner is a kindergarten teacher, and earlier this year she had gone to PTO, and PTO does some STEM grants. She asked for a STEM grant for the opportunity to purchase some equipment so that she could incubate chickens, and then she came to the idea of what am I gonna do with these chickens once they're not cute and fluffy, because that's only about a week, and I happened to be at that meeting, and I was like, I have a solution. So Cadence is going to be helping Miss Christner once she starts incubating eggs. We are going to incubate them start when we come back, the week after spring break. So she'll go over, spend some time at the grade school, helping teach the kids about the life cycle of the chicken and handling eggs and the little educational piece that goes with that. And hopefully, in about 21 days, we'll have some baby chicks. So again, phase 1 is the incubation.
Yep.
Phase 2
is getting a permanent coop at the school, and then it will help learn about, like, promote continuous learning and establishment of sustainable animal care.
So we, Miss Christner actually had a friend, and she has Koken chickens, and so that's what we're gonna get. And one of the reasons that she wanted to have these chickens is because they're cold and hot weather hardy, and they lay a lot of eggs. A little bit of that, and so that's the Koken. So then we got to our coop, which is why we're here today to talk to you guys.
Yes, so this is our coop layout. Well, this is what we're having our wood shop class build. So on the right, there's like the front and back, and then this one right here where it's in blue is what it's gonna hopefully look like.
So we decided, we talked to Coach Pearl, and he asked us to purchase some plans. So that'll help our construction guys actually follow them, and so that it will be right, it'll be made correctly, all the doors will open. So we were able to get some plans for him. He looked through them and said, this looks like it'll work. You'll notice that there are wheels on the bottom. We're doing a tractor style coop so that we can move it. When we met with Chris Roy, that was important to him, that we didn't just put the chickens in one spot and let them completely destroy the ground. So one of the things we did was meet with him, and he kind of helped us with that as well. Do you have any questions so far? So when we started this project, we looked at the coop, we looked at the city ordinances, and we read the regulations. So Cadence came to my office. She's got ag leadership 6th hour. So we've been spending some time together going over this. And in the city of Haven, we're allowed to have
6 chickens.
no roosters. Okay. So that will be something that we'll address as we're hatching, because we won't be able to just get pullets. So we will probably hatch some roosters. So we have a plan for those. And we met with the city, talked to the city, and we had the city inspector come out and look at our space prior to tell us if it was okay, because there's regulations on where the chicken coop can be in relationship to an easement and other properties. And he gave us tentative approval. So one of the things that we learned was that we have to get from the city. What do we have to get?
The building.
We have to get a building permit. And I clarified, even though we're going to build this tractor in our shop and it will be movable, we do plan to go to the city council and ask for an exemption for that. And we also plan to ask for an exemption for the $35 a year fee to pay for the chickens. You have to have a permit. We're going to ask for an educational exemption because we're not having these for our own consumption, but rather for the learning experience that comes with it. The other thing that we were able to do is we were able to contact our FFA alumni board and ask them if they would be interested in helping us pay for this. Because that was the other thing, was how are we going to pay for the building of the coop and the supplies, and the board said that they would be happy to help sponsor us in that project.
So when we have eggs, we're gonna use them. So we're gonna sell them, and then it's gonna help us make money to buy their feed and some expenses.
We've also talked with Ms. Miller. She said that she would love to have some eggs that they can use in the FACS classroom, but ultimately we would like to have a sustainable business plan where we can help pay for the chicken food.
So you're really gonna be limited to 6 chickens?
Well, I have a lot more than that at my house, but yes, in town we're limited to 6.
Where do you plan to start the placement of it? You said you can roll it around, but
50 yard line?
where are you planning on putting it?
So by the greenhouse, there's a little spot on the right that we plan to have it out, so then there's enough room to move it and stuff, and it's not in any way.
This guy approved it. I haven't asked Darla yet, so that's the real one you gotta get approved from.
What are you guys gonna do with it during the summer?
Well, that's when the SAE comes in. We've had a little bit of experience where something sounds like a great idea, like a class pet, and then I end up being the one that's watering it, feeding it on the weekends, and that's not as much fun, and not really what I enjoy doing. But since Cadence lives in town, she'll be the one that will be responsible for them through the summer.
Still didn't answer my question. Which came first, the egg or the chicken?
So I guess we just wanted to let you know what we're doing and make sure support in doing it. We're pretty excited about it. It'll be a great experience. Any questions?
Any other questions? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Cole.
Yeah, so gonna jump in, kind of circling back to the conversation of last month, bringing back some numbers, and then we've certainly got a recommendation. We'll recommend that there's 3 options, and we'll talk about them ultimately at the end. So we'll just try to jump in here. So thinking about or looking about the number of students who participated. So last spring, remember we didn't start this in the fall. We weren't able to get this started in time for the girls. So in spring, we had 6 boys. In the fall, we had 2 girls. And then this spring, we had 11 boys out. And we've had a handful, or Mr. Kirkpatrick and I think some board members have probably even heard from some ladies that are interested in participating next spring as well. Kind of just some reminders. Transportation, with the co-op with Nickerson, they practice that crazy horse. In your notes, it says that occasional practice at the Sand Greens in Haven, but Keisha has now, there are no longer a Sand Greens championship, and so while that would still be an option, I don't know if the coaches would want to do that. Our coaches have to drive them all to practice. They usually get home from the drive 5:15, 5:30, depends kind of sometimes on the day. When we think about fuel, in the spring, because we were able to take a transit van with those for the boys, it was around $900 of fuel that was used to go to practice every day, and then also to meets. In the fall, we only had the 2 ladies, so we were able to utilize a car, which cut down on fuel expenses quite a bit. And then possibly this spring, we may be using a minibus at the very least, a transit van. So kind of common fuel costs will look very similar to what we had last year. Always depending on costs associated with that. Additional expenses, coaches, we paid a stipend of $3,715 as of right now. If the base goes up, that goes up. So you take that times 2. We did have a boys coach last spring, and we weren't able to get a girls coach, and so we had 2 teachers, elementary teachers, that split the stipend and took turns driving them to practice every day, and then also to meets. But we split the $3,715 between them. Some other fees, obviously Keisha fees for postseason play. Typical meets range between $65 and $80 per team. And if you, last year, it was $15, or we would pay $15 if we had individuals. We were fortunate enough last year, Nickerson covered all the fees. We can't promise that would happen again, just because they were already had it budgeted. But they'll have a new coach, new administration, so that could change. And then one thing also we need to keep in mind was the cost for substitute teachers. And because in the spring we had a Rule 10 coach, so we weren't able to get a sub then. But those 2 teachers, those 2 elementary teachers getting out cost us around $455 in dollars. But then also with them being out of class as well. Just a reminder on the cooperative agreement, we do have some time. And the reason, good thing about this is because I think Nickerson is certainly still up in limbo. One, they don't have a coach yet, and their administration said it would be if that person wants to enter into this. So we've got some time for that until June 1st before Mr. Kirkpatrick has to get everything turned into Keisha. So where does that leave us? And these are the next steps. Ultimately, we feel there are 3 options. There's to continue with the cooperative agreement if able. That would be our recommendation. We feel we've always taken the stance of giving opportunities to our kids, and I think we have kids that participate in this that don't participate in anything else. Small number, but there are a few. Other option would be create our own program. The reason why we're hesitant of this is, one, it would increase costs because we would have to rent out a facility. I don't think our local course could allow us to practice there every day and competitively, but also the struggle of we haven't been able to find a coach, and I think it would be extremely hard to build a viable program without being able to hire a coach. This spring we have someone who is coaching and is going to learn, but is not a golf coach. You know, as we said with the girls last year, we had 2 teachers taking them, and they didn't coach at all. And so that's probably our biggest concern with going down starting our own program, is what do you do when you don't have a coach that can grow the program, and you're just getting somebody to drive them to practice. That's why our agreement's to stay with the cooperative agreement if we're able. And then the last option would be to dissolve the program, not continue golf. We've got, you know, certainly opportunities in the fall and the spring for those that don't play the main sports that have pretty large teams. If we're truly looking at a participation thing, there's probably other things that we could, look at again if we're looking for numbers. So I will answer any questions. Like I said, our recommendation would be to stay in the cooperative agreement, work on continue to find a coach. We had some good leads, they just didn't pan out this year, just due to the fact that it's going to be really hard to have any kind of program if we're just paying somebody to drive them. That's why the cooperative agreements would be our recommendation.
Any questions? Cole? Kelly, you got any questions?
Nope.
I think the issue is, like, well, I mean, if we don't, if Nickerson says we don't want to be in a cooperative agreement, we would come back and have that. I think it's a different conversation. I think that's that fair for the board. Is that okay? If we can say, yeah, let's continue with the agreement as long as Nickerson, so we just need to go from there.
And the coach we have is not a teacher, correct? So we won't have to worry about substitute.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so if everybody's okay with it, we'll continue on the cooperative agreement.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, calendar, 26 and 27 school calendar.
Yeah, so in your packet there is the one pager. Just remember that this is the academic calendar, so just major dates. Now if this gets approved, this was the winner from the staff by 90%. As I talked before, this year just didn't lend to a bunch of options in terms of what we could do. Easter falls at a weird time, and kind of where Christmas is, and when we try to start a little bit later this year, and people seem to like that, and the week off at Thanksgiving, and so the only really difference between the two was that those Fridays off after conferences were moved to a Monday, and like I said, this one won 90% to 10%, and so we would just recommend approval of option 1 for the academic calendar next year. Now, principals, admin, as soon as this gets plugged into our district site, then they'll start plugging in events and things like that. So that's not what this is. They'll start getting those. Some of them are already there. So I can answer any questions. I do want to say, if you're curious about events, you can find those from our website down at the bottom. It'll say events. You click that, and it takes you to the district activity calendar, which is different than this.
So on the October and February parent-teacher conferences, they're not like half day of school?
They are, yes. The Thursday is correct. Yeah.
Just Thursday?
The Thursday, correct.
Okay.
Yes. I can share the whole months back out with you too. I just not the one page.
I think I have it.
Yeah, you click on the months, it'll show you
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
nobody has any other questions, we'll need a motion and a second to approve this.
I move that we approve calendar option one.
A second.
Kelly has the second. All in favor, right hand? I'm assuming 6-0.
Yes.
Thank you. Consideration of AI policy, first read.
Yeah, so first read is always just presenting, you guys have the next month to look this over, send recommendations back to me, we can bring them back then to the table next month. If there aren't any, then we would take it as a second read and to get it approved. How we kind of got here, we felt through DLT, through staff conversations, that we kind of needed something. You know, we really don't have any policy to fall back on in regards to AI. And so we came up with a couple different drafts. Admin presented them to staff, they talked through them, and ultimately they thought this one kind of covered what we were needing. It gave us a place to start. We can certainly tighten things down as it continues to grow, but also then not adding a bunch of more work to our people. We've got people that are battling it. We've got teachers that require, every assignment's done in class, so they write in class. And so, you know, it's out there, you know, and so I can answer any questions in terms of kind of how we got here, but I would ask that you review this policy over the next month and either share changes or questions with me, and we'll bring them back.
Any questions, anyone?
May not be where this fits in exactly, but I do know that there has been, and I couldn't tell you exactly which schools off the top of my head, but some that have been actually embracing the AI factor and actually teaching, having some classes or some areas where they're actually teaching kids how to use it.
And I think,
Appropriately, however that may be, is that?
yes, and part of that is in this policy, but I think we have, and I'll let Megan and Laurel and Adam speak to that, what they do at the high school level.
We have a lot of teachers who do use AI and show students how to use it. I was sitting in a class the other day, a senior English class, and they were using it to kind of compare and contrast and help generate items for discussion. The goal, I think, is that we're not taking a prompt and putting it in and saying, write me an essay on this topic. But we're using it to say, hey, if I had an idea, or help me refine, or adjust, or help me create, not just do it for me. I know our robotics teacher, the teacher who's currently teaching robotics, has used AI a lot in that course and showing students how to appropriately use it. I think those things are happening, those conversations are happening. But we also have a lot of just plug it in, copy it, and let it do the work for you.
That's great, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, moving on, Little Learners update.
So Megan just does our yearly update on Little Learners, because as we jumped into this journey, kind of always the goal to keep it in the black, and so she's going to kind of talk through that. And I once again commend her for the work that she's put into this, her and her staff, to give our community a wonderful option for not only early or daycare, but early childhood.
All right, do I have a clicker? You have a clicker.
I got it.
Wanna do it?
Thank you. No.
Down, right? It's down like it.
I'll figure it out.
It's slow though.
All right, so just to remind you all kind of how we've gotten here, with a lot of grant funding, a lot of help along the way. So this is just kind of a recap of the different grants that we have received along the way. Those ones that are not bolded are ones that we have mostly used for some of those capital projects, some of the renovations that we've done, some of the projects that are listed over there in the right. And then the bolded, the retention grant, that was something that we received quarterly. Those were ARPA funds. that was based on our enrollment. So based on the number of students or children that were enrolled in our program, we got a quarterly check from United Way that helped us as we were getting started, and we used that to supplement salaries. So kind of to back up a little bit, when we jumped into this and we were looking at numbers and what we needed to charge and what we were going to pay people and trying to balance it, come up with a budget that made sense, we set those numbers knowing that it might be a little bit before we got there, that we probably wouldn't be full on day one, but that was always the goal, to get to that budget that we had created at the beginning. So we used those retention grants to be able to, supplement those salaries and get us to where we're at here. So overall, we've received just under $500,000 in grants. Okay, so where are we at now? So this is just a snapshot of our weekly budget. So that middle column is current, or as of last week, what we're bringing in per week. So in weekly fee income, so this is parent fees, or we also accept DCF payments. So we bring in just over $12,000 a week in fees. And then that next line, weekly employee discounts. So we offer, as a part of our program, a 25% staff discount to any USD 312 staff member. So that was something that this group wanted to offer, that we felt like was a really cool thing to be able to offer staff as a recruitment piece, as just something different that not every other employer around here is doing. But we offer that 25% discount to any staff, USD 312 staff. So that could be a full-time teacher, that could be part-time, all the way to a Rule 10 coach that is receiving this discount. Next line there is our staffing cost per week. So this line includes our wages and then insurance. So health insurance that we pay for full and part-time staff, or it's offered to full and part-time staff. So with all of that considered, I'm excited to say we did it. We've broken even at $28 a week. And that was always the goal.
Good job.
This wasn't meant to be a moneymaker. This was meant to be a service to our community, to get kids quality early childhood or child care, and get kids in the door at an early age. So on the right there, this would be at capacity. So we, and I want to mention, so we've done some finagling over at Haven. We've relicensed some rooms over there to be able to meet the needs as they come to us of our community. So right now where we stand, we are technically full in Haven, but we could take more kids if so we have an or statement on one of our rooms. So the way we have it licensed, we have one of our rooms licensed as, it could be infants, or it could be infants and toddlers in that same spot, in that same room. If we go infants and toddlers, we can take more kids. If it's just infants, our ratio goes down, we can take less kids, but that's any kid under 12 months. So right now the need that we have is for under 12 months. We are packed full with a wait list of under 12 months, so we've taken all of those that we can. So that does cut down on our income a little bit, and so that's why that number, we're not quite at that capacity number. But technically right now in Haven we're full. And we're booked out. We have spots lined up for infants through September. So our next opening is in September for an infant. At Yoder, we have one opening for a 2-year-old, 2 openings for what we call extended care for that other half of the day for preschool students, and then 4 spots for after-school care for preschool students. So we are pretty close to being at capacity, but just keep in mind that that number is not quite there just because of that licensing thing that we have going on. So again, then there's that weekly discount. I put a question mark there because it's hard to know those last few spots that we have to fill, would they be staff kids or not. And then our weekly staffing cost would not change. We're staffed appropriately to be able to take on those last several kiddos. So if we were at capacity, that would bump our net up to just over $1,000 a week or $4,000 a month.
Yeah, then you maybe start paying for your air conditioners.
We'll do our best. Okay, so I did want to point out just our budget looks a little bit different in the summer, just there's some things that shift around. So, again, this is based on the kids that we currently have signed up for our summer programs. So, right now we're slated to bring in that $12,370 per week. This jumped up a little bit from the school year because we will open that school age program out at Yoder, and that's for K-3 students. We can take 20 students or children out there for that program. Our weekly employee discounts actually goes down for the summer because many of our staff members are 10-month employees or 9-month employees, and they keep their kiddos home with them for the summer. That also means that we don't get that income for the summer also. That has been a benefit that we have offered our staff, is that we hold their spot in childcare through the summer free of charge. So that is something I want you all to be aware of as well. And then our staffing cost does go up just a little bit as well in the summer because of that school age room. Which puts us at a net of $187 a week or $748 per month during those summer months. So then over on the right, at capacity, this would be during the summer. I'm not going to spend too much time on this column because I don't believe this is ever going to happen, just based on our clientele, knowing that a lot of our kiddos are staff member kids that probably are not going to attend over the summer, but it would be really cool if they did. So some setbacks to our budget. First one being the benefits that we offer. We do, as we do for our other employees, offer that paid health insurance policy. We offer PTO, vacation, sick, holiday, all of those things. Obviously, those are great. They've helped us recruit. We've definitely been able to hire because of those things, but they do come with a high cost. Inclement weather days. Thankfully, we haven't had a lot of those this year, but last year that was an issue for us because we follow the decisions of the district, and anytime the district closes, we also close, and we credit our families for those closure days. The pre-K slot structure, just the way that room specifically works. We make more money in that room during the school year. Because they're half-day slots during the school year, and then they turn to full-day slots, there's just a difference in income in that room, but it is offset by what we bring in the school age program. And then probably the two big ones are the staff discounts. Currently we have 20 spots that are filled with staff children. I never thought that would be the case. When we started, I think we had 6. And so that has turned into a significant amount of our budget, $595 a week in staff discounts. And then a really big chunk in the summer with 9 of our current children will be staying home over the summer. And those are those higher cost spots of infants and toddlers. So that will cost us $1,100 a week. So kind of what that looks like for the year, I wanted to, and this is estimates, obviously this fluctuates as kids come and go, but wanted to give you kind of a general overview. That middle column, that's where I want to start. That's with our current income, with that $28 a week during the school year, and that $187 a week during the summer. Just multiplied those each by 4 for 4 weeks in a month to show our net for the year at $2,500. And then on the far right, that would be at capacity. I do want to point out that I didn't change the summer numbers on that capacity, just because, as I mentioned, I don't see that happening. I do think it's attainable that we could be at capacity next year during the school year. Any questions on that? That makes sense. And then looking ahead, obviously we've met that break-even point. Our profit does increase as we approach capacity. Our 26-27 enrollment is a little bit hard to predict, but it's looking good. As I mentioned, our infant slots are full through September. We do have that flexibility with that, the way that we've licensed those rooms now in Haven. So that has been helpful in helping us be able to respond to the needs of our families, and as enrollments come in, being able to adjust as needed. It appears that our 18 to 36 month spots will be full next school year, just because knowing kids are going to age up. I've got this master document that I track kids for 2 years. What classroom they'll be in each month, because I didn't do that in the beginning, and then we ran into that problem where we had too many kids and not enough space for them. So it looks like those spots will be full as long as nobody leaves. And then where we're sitting with preschool enrollment, currently for next year we've got 72 preschoolers planning to attend. Of those preschoolers, 44 of them are requesting extended care. And then all of our after-school spots are full for next year. So it's looking like those programs will be full.
What's the breakdown between 3 and 4 year olds?
For this year or next?
What is of the 72, like, how many
Yeah.
of those are?
So next year, of those 72, it's split even, 36-36, which has never happened. As of a couple days ago, we were actually higher on 3s, which I made sure to point out to him, because as we're thinking ahead to kindergarten classrooms, I said, this has never happened before, that I have so many 3-year-olds. That's more than we are predicting in kindergarten next year.
Right.
And so maybe that's gonna be a bigger class
That's
in
what I
the
was
future.
asking.
Yes.
I was just-
I texted him a few days ago and I said, hey, I think we got a bigger class coming. Yeah, so since I've been in this role, we've never had that many 3-year-olds. And they're mostly 3-12 kids.
Do you have any, oh, that's what I was.
There's a couple out of district. But we've kept some of those kids that came as, it's kind of cool to see some of those kids that came as infants are now enrolling in preschool, want to stay with us. And we've got a couple kiddos that live out of district that are planning to come to kindergarten next year. Their parents are working in our daycare, and
So we were hoping for.
they came to preschool here and they like it, and they're gonna ride the bus from Yoder to Haven, so.
I would say this is, I'd say this is the next checkpoint, because I think when last time we did this, we had retention grants, we had grants that we were able to give discounts, we were able to make sure we weren't full, and now we know where we're at, and so I don't think we need recommendations in terms of next steps, other than continue like we're doing, but, you know, if enrollment changes, then maybe we're coming back to talk, you know, differently about, you know, the benefits and things like that.
Obviously, our staffing cost is gonna go up if the pay scale changes, so that would affect that also.
None of this covers like
And you might have
overhead.
already said, how many of the kindergartner or pre-K went, are we expecting to enroll into the kindergarten, or?
Yeah, she's asking about next year.
Yeah, for next year's kindergarten.
Yeah, we surveyed all of our 4-year-old preschoolers this year, and I think we're predicting, what did I say, 28 out of our current 4-year-olds to go, and if we base that off of, so last year, 83% of our kindergarten class had attended preschool with us. So if that trend continues, that would put us at 35 in kindergarten next year.
Did you catch that, Kelly?
Yeah, thank you, sorry.
Okay. Nicole, you were asking something?
I just asked if, like, none of this includes like overhead for
Correct.
everything.
Correct.
And part of that we didn't because those buildings were already open when we transitioned them to new uses. Like the preschool used to be at the church and Yoder, so our utilities and stuff we didn't figure into this.
And like food costs aren't on there because we participate in CACFP, so we get reimbursed for everything else. But
Are we renting rooms to,
yeah,
is that included in your income? Or
no, because that's preschool. So they help pay for our specialist teacher, cook, custodian.
Okay, so it's kind of accounted for in your cost.
No, because this is just daycare. That goes into pre-K.
So do we know like a true overhead of the building and income and with the rents and all that stuff that?
We don't pay rent on any of them?
No, she's talking about rent income. Well, basically with this sharing the staff.
Yeah, they pay for 20% of their salary. For just the pre-K, none of our daycare, none of what she presented has to do with our pre-K staff.
Right, I just meant a true overhead, I think where Nicole was kind of going to, like.
The only building that would have overhead would be the building here in Haven.
Who pays the electric and the gas up there?
But that's pre-K. I mean, I guess you could say.
Yeah, we can figure, we
You
just
could
never
say-
have. That's
You could
yeah.
say part of it
It sounds like we
is
know what all the
allocated
numbers
to
are, but
pre-K,
we
and part
haven't
of
put
it's
them all
allocated to
Yeah.
childcare, sure.
But we gotta check the other class. We can get that all to you.
Any other things for Megan?
So when you're talking about the enrollment numbers, like when you're talking about the pre-K enrollment here, that's just for Haven? Sorry.
Pre-K is at Yoder.
Okay, so the 72 applications, those are all
That's
over.
you.
Yeah, so we've got, okay, now you're putting me on the spot. How many kids do we have in Haven? 12, 14, what's that? 38. We have 38 in Haven, 0 to 24 months. And then once they turn 2, they go to Haven, or to Yoder.
Okay.
And there's a 2-year-old childcare classroom out there that's full day. There's a 3-year-old childcare classroom out there that's full day. And then there's half-day pre-K and half-day childcare out there. And there's about 120 kids at Yoder. 120.
Any other questions for Megan? Thanks, Megan. Class splits.
Yeah, so really, as I've been putting in my update, I'm not sure the best way to go about it. I guess we withdraw my recommendation because that was my intention when we had first talking to class splits was to make sure we were be able to have the space that the things that the grade school admin had presented on when they did the presentation earlier in the year that they were talking about. But, you know, and I certainly kicked up a hornet's nest with that. And I don't know the right or wrong answer. I think, you know, I think some of that will work itself out when we do the out-of-district numbers. But certainly wanted to make sure we brought it back to the table. I shared with what those multipliers look like, you know, and the things that RCEC is doing and things like that. And the grade school admin have met with their BLT, with their entire staff. To work on a good plan, to be able to do those things, to help address the behaviors we're seeing, to help address, you know, staff being gone. Some of that is the issues, and they will present that next month in terms of what next school year will look like at Haven Grade. And so we can keep going with this and certainly talk more about class splits and what the board would like to see and those kinds of things, or if you'd like to set hard numbers. You know, if you don't want to do it with this, I think doing it during the out-of-district numbers would also play a part in that, because that's the number we have to be willing to accept. Whether that we get them or not, whatever we set that, we have to be willing to take those. So I'll leave it at that. I will answer any questions, take it in the direction, like I said, I would recant that and say I don't think, my intentions was not to get us to where we're setting hard numbers. It was to ultimately be able to say, yes, Braden and Darby, you guys can move forward, you know, with that, because we're not willing to have a class of 28 or so, whatever it may be. 24, 25.
When does the decision have to be made about out-of-district
We would present, and so my recommendation would be bring a first read either next month or the board to do a work session between now and then with the final approval in May. So I can talk more on class splits and needs, and without, like I said, I think you'll appreciate the work that they put into it and how they went about it. But my intention for that was to say, yes, we can do that, but they're able to still do that and their staff is bought in, so that would be my recommendation, to go that way.
One thing, we've had a class, or classes that have been at 2, is that correct?
Yeah, our current 3rd and 4th grade are both at 2.
And they've been at 2 for a couple years, is that correct? If I
The-
remember.
Yes, the 4th grade has, and 3rd grade was just this past year, or no?
Third's been 2 years.
3rd's been 2 years, 4th was just once this year. This was the first year of 4th.
Okay, have we been tracking like issues, grades, scores, I know this, learning, anything like that?
No more than what we've shared, the at-risk numbers, we shared the fast bridge data and state assessments data. We can pull all that back up for you guys, or back out.
We had looked some at one point in the past, not necessarily at a specific grade and how they were doing, but just big classes versus small classes over the last couple of years. We didn't really see any real correlation between a bigger class and a smaller class that you might think you would have.
And I put in, we think that break-even numbers between 18 and 20 in terms of just the paying for the teacher. I know obviously there's a bunch of other costs that go with the splitting up a class, but you know, as I said, I think that's why you see most classes in that 20 to 24 when they can be. You know, without splitting one into, like we see now with our kindergarten class, that's 3 groups of 11 or 12. We can't operate that way, I don't believe, without changing something else somewhere else in the district.
Yeah, and this is gonna be a conversation we're gonna continue to have.
100%.
We've got classes of 55 to 60 and classes of 35
Right,
to
and
40.
it's great news to hear that our 3s are bigger. I mean, hopefully
Yeah.
we're going back in the right direction. We just knew history was showing us that K, 1, 2, and maybe next year's kindergarten were going to be smaller. And,
Yeah, it's probably a discussion to have every year.
100%. Yep.
Things that we might need to consider.
I mean, I would say, would you, in direction from the board, do you want to do that during a work session with, in terms of the out of district? Do you want admin to bring something back? I mean, I hear, you know, last year we used 22 and 24. If we're not willing to have 22 or 24 in a class, we can't make that out of district number of those numbers. You know, and I don't think that was a reality until we started talking about these class splits, when people were like, oh, I could really have that. Like, having class splits doesn't bring more kids in. You know, having out of district numbers doesn't bring more kids in, but it sets that limit. But I need some direction in terms of, because admin would start working on that now. If the board would like to say, no, we will take that over, I can help guide the board through that kind of work session and gather information. You know, or we would be bringing what we would say would be a first read
on the out-of-district numbers?
on the out-of-district numbers.
Yes, my first thought would be some of the building admin would almost know better what would fit their building than what I would. But I'm open to whatever.
You know, I think they should do it. I mean, maybe, you know, maybe they could identify something that might be a point of discussion. You know, if we did need something to flex somewhere, what would it be? Just a name? With an X through it? I'm just kidding.
Now, like I said, we'll bring those back and open it back up for discussion. And that, in terms of that, as I said, for the class splits, it was more to make sure they could move forward with what they were doing, because they've got to get some trainings done and things like that, and get people on board and things like that. And so they were able to do that. I mean, they had a really sound plan, and I'm excited for them, and they're excited, staff's excited that they'll present to you. So that's why I'm withdrawing my recommendation for that, but we can continue to move forward if the board would like. But I think the rest of it would come out in the class split discussion too. Or I'm sorry, the out-of-district discussion, sorry.
I think if I'm summarizing it up right quick, I think if I gathered everything correctly, that we're saying that the building administration comes up with the number.
We'll run that to
Is-
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, number 10, executive session. I move the board recess to executive session to discuss issues related to non-elected personnel under the exemption of the non-elected personnel exemption under KOMA. The open meeting shall resume at 8 o'clock to include the board.
Second.
All in favor? 6-0.
You guys go going downstairs, or you want us to? That should work downstairs. Yeah, we better.
Okay, let's go downstairs.
Where you were.
Clock again. And we're out of executive session. So number 11 is consideration of superintendent contract.
I move that we approve a 2-year contract for Greg's extension.
Second.
First from Daniel and a second from Ron. All in favor, right hand. Okay. 5. It'll end up being 5-1. Kelly is abstaining. Okay, number 12 is executive session. I move the board recess to executive session to discuss issues related to non-elected personnel under the exemption of non-elected personnel under the KOMA. The meeting shall resume at, it'll not be 8:11. Second,
Second.
Ron, all in favor? 6-0. 8:11, we're back in open session. Point number 13, a consideration of director's contract. I need a motion and a second. To approve.
The administrative contract as presented.
Second.
Okay, Brian was first, Daniel second. All in favor?
Kelly's a yes.
Okay, 6-0. Okay, consideration, point number 14, consideration of principal contracts. I'll make that motion that we approve the principal contracts.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, right hand?
Kelly, yes.
6-0. Approval of work contracts. I'll need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract.
Okay, Nicole first,
Second.
second Ryan. All in favor? 6-0. Okay, number 16, executive session for negotiation. I'll read the motion. I move the board recess to executive session to discuss issues related to teacher's contract under the exemption of employee-employer negotiation under KOMA. The open meeting shall resume at, let's see, 15, about 7:35? I mean 8:35, I'm sorry.
Hey.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? I'm assuming 6. Okay, we're back in open session. Reports, Chris is not here. You're up.
Yeah, a couple things. We're at the end of the third 9 weeks. Hard to believe it's Thursday. So, and then we go into spring break next week. Congrats to our winter sports activities and athletes. Spring practices have already started, and competitions will be right around the corner, along with everything else that we do in the spring. Which also, you'll note that graduation is on May 17th. I'll confirm middle school promotion in my update, but traditionally, or as many board members that want to sit on the stages in those, if you just let us know, and we'll circle back to it in April. Just let us know so we can get enough chairs and get your name in the program. There's really just no speaking parts, just shaking hands, hugging, shaking hands. So you are more than welcome to do that, but we would like at least 2 for each one. So don't need those names yet. We'll get them next month. And then we had our KISA day today. It was a great day, great collaboration with which is our KISA group, which is Hillsborough, Remington, and Heston, and sharing our plans. And so we will have it on the agenda next month to give a year recap of kind of the work that we did over this past year and what our last action plan was and the recommendations. And we still got to take it to DLT for a couple final things outside of our KISA team, but we will present that next month as well. And that is all I have.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Nicole, do you have anything?
I mentioned to you when we talked recently about if or when the board has last done like a evaluation. I'd like that to be a consideration or topic of discussion. If we could start from the top, self-evaluate as a board.
Okay. I don't know that that has ever happened.
I could reach out to KSB and see if they have any tools for that.
That's where I got the idea.
Yeah, okay. Or there's a soup listserv that I'm on to say if there's any districts out there. I can see what I can collect.
Okay.
Kelly, do you have anything?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Daniel?
Good.
Ron?
Good.
Jessica? I don't have any. Christie?
I'm good.
Okay, the next board meeting is April 13th at 6 p.m. here at the district office.
Move we adjourn.
Kelly, are you in on it?
Yes, I can do.
Yeah, remote meetings are terrible.